Hey everyone, welcome to the SnapCast. I'm Rob,
I'm Jerry.
and welcome to our very first video podcast. So we're going to be experimenting with this. There's going to be some hiccups as we go through the whole presentation of what we want to show you, what we want to talk about, and all that other good stuff. My eyes will not be directly at the camera because I'm looking at the screen over here. I'm going to be looking over here. It's going to be weird. I want to look up, but I hope you guys really enjoy it. Definitely give us some feedback on if you enjoy these kinds of like this kind of content, or if you just want us to stick to the podcast because you don't want to look at our faces. Either way is fine. We hope you enjoy. But Jerry, man, how have you been? What have you been up to?
Man, I'm good. Let's see. Biggest thing I got recently in the Magic world, I got me a playset of these fat lads, four
Oh,
copies, full art,
de-
altered endurance.
definitely got to show it off, man. Like swag, pimping out your decks, foiling them out. That's always a good thing. As for me, I've recently been foiling out mine. I had to make some new additions though, because aim like Titan Shift has been coming back, and it might be a little weak to see, but we do have the card Wish coming into play out of Forgotten Realms. Yes, that set actually brought valuable cards to the game. It's
Excuse
amazing.
me? You're
I
putting Wish in a deck without Storm? What's wrong with you?
Hey, I mean, whenever I can wish for my escape shift or I can keep a Valakut safe from like a surgical extraction, I definitely want to be able to do that. And it's great because when you wish for it, you don't just put it in your hand, you just get to play it from outside the game at that point. So essentially, you pay 3 mana and your hand size just went from like 5 to 20. Sounds pretty good to me.
Sounds great. And not only is that deck coming back, but there's two other Valakut decks that are just absolutely phenomenal choices right now, if you're into that.
Oh yes, anything I can do to blow people up with mountains. The other styles really not my shindig, but you know what? To each their own. If you want to kill people with mountains, by all means do so.
This
Uh,
dude doesn't want to bring to light escape shift. I'm so sad.
bring the light. That was
Be
a
a part of the problem.
nah. That was a variant I could not get behind. What have you been up to getting ready for like this huge influx of like magic events we have now? Have you been out playing?
So I've been playing a ton of Living End. I'm all in on the Cascade piles, but as time has gone on, the Rhinos deck is getting worse and worse because 4-4 Rhinos is just not good enough anymore,
Okay,
especially with what's coming out. Like Amulet Titan can just outpower those. Omnath doesn't care about any of those. Death Shadow is just faster than all of that. And then Living End is like, well, my Cascade spell is just better than your Cascade spell. So I'm going to stick with Living End for the time being. What I've really been doing is just been I've been going to local FNMs, that type of thing. Wednesdays when we play Pioneer, we didn't fire this week, obviously, but when I go, I just play against whatever anyone's got available, and I've run a
gotcha.
few leagues as well.
Okay, nice. How have you been doing in the leagues with Living End, or have you been trying different decks?
Infinite 4-1s.
Just can't lock down the 5-0, huh?
It's always something like it's weird. It's like when I went and played at that NRG event, or this past season of NRG events where I played Burn at all of them, and I would run into things you'd never see. Like here's a blue white control player with 3 copies of Gideon of the Trials. Well, I'm never beating that, but what are you using that to beat anything else with? You know, stuff like that was happening. Like
Gotcha.
I ran into Eldrazi Tron, and I'm like, oh man, I haven't played against this deck in forever. I thought it was gonna be a great matchup. Turns out when you're not playing main board answers to Chalice of the Void anymore, it free rolls you, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Gideon and Trials, that's just an obnoxious card to play against altogether. Started playtesting again, getting ready for Energy Chicagoland. That's coming up here at the end of the month. It sounds like we're going to have a little Snapcast reunion. Alex is looking at joining us up there. And even Chris is going to try to get some leave and come up from Kansas to play.
Nice, very cool. One last little bit of news: ban restricted update came out this past Monday. Only changes are to alchemy,
Ah,
where
yes.
grinning Ingus got banned.
Now, isn't Alchemy the format where they can just like nerf a card, like just change it on the fly and like make it work, like a little bit worse, but keep the card from unbanned, or like
The way the way grinning Ingus interacts with the format, even just nerfing it is pretty piss poor in general. It's just better to ban that card.
gotcha. Okay, so no format is immune to bannings, not even the one where they can just change cards kind of on a whim to keep things fun and exciting and fast paced. And that's kind of what I got out of the ban restricted announcement for that.
Yep, they're happy with modern. I'm okay with it. I accept it for what it is. And Pioneer, obviously, I'm ecstatic about it. I have no problems with it. So,
Yeah, with me, personal life, the submarine maintenance period continue to get pushed to the right, which I'm okay with. Delaying our next underway, it like solidified me going to Chicago, so 100% on board for that. We got some exciting news, which I can't wait to talk about after it happens, just because kind of can't talk about things like that before it happens. OPSEC, military people out there will understand. But in the world of Magic, though, right, I've started playing Magic Online again. Did my first league in months last night, and I was very happy with the diversity of the format. I was very concerned because of the number of four color Omnath Urion elemental decks that are out there. It's kind of misconstrued on MTG Goldfish, where it says that it's not one of the top 10 decks, but really, if you take all three of the Urion four color piles, or money pile, if you will, because it is the most expensive deck in Modern right now, it absolutely is the king of the format with about, I think, 12 to 13% of top finishes.
yeah, it's just what flavor do you want to play with it? It's like it feels almost like Survival of the Fittest in Legacy back in 2009. It's yeah, no one survival deck was better than the others, but you had four different survival decks: survival aggro, combo, mid range, and control. Here
Exactly.
we have three different Omnath decks. You have tribal elementals, you have Planeswalker Paradise, and you have Valakut combo. Your
Yep.
choice.
Yeah. There's different ways you can run it. Omnath definitely a powerhouse in the format. The big things that I ran into were, so I was running Crabvine. I was doing an order brew, and we're going to talk about some of the card changes here in a little bit. But same thing. Eldrazi, powerful deck still. I got completely wrecked by, I believe the streamer's name was the Tunneling Cat. And they were actually streaming it too, so they got to just show off the wonderful 2-0 destruction of me. I really didn't do too much. Main deck, Relic Progenitus. If you're not running Graveyard Hate main deck, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Just with the number of decks operating out of the graveyard right now, that's something you should be doing. But then another one that beat up on me too was good old Yawgmoth combo. And let me tell you about a deja vu feel bad on that. Because that took me, what was that, Indianapolis, Jerry, where I made day two?
Yes.
Yep. Going in around 14, I was 11 and 2, doing great. Paired up against Aaron Barrich. She was on Yawgmoth combo, and I just got wrecked. Like, I knew the deck was out there, I didn't know too much about it. And sure enough, she ended up actually winning that event that weekend. And I ended up finishing, I think, 31st or 32nd, somewhere around there. Still really good with that. It was one of my best finishes. Actually, I think my best finish at an open. And same thing happened here. Just it was very close. They found their quarter calling with 2 life left. Like they were cycling hard. I had them dead on the crackback. I had Wander in the graveyard, so all my creatures had flying, and they needed to find a way to get Blood Artist, and they did.
Sometimes it's just the way the cards fall, man. But
Yep.
that deck is a very rude deck. It is very strong, and it is the best thing. One of the best things to be doing in Modern, playing Collecting Company.
Yes. Absolutely. Actually, this one doesn't play Collected Company. It's Quarter Calling and Eldritch Evolution.
Okay, okay, yeah. Any combination of those cards, they're
Yes.
wildly strong because all the creatures in the deck just buy themselves back anyways. They're inherent 2 for 1s.
Yep.
Yeah, like Young Wolf was a $5 card at one point. A silly little common from Dark Ascension, just blocks Ragavan forever.
Oh yeah. All right. So, getting into prepping for modern. So, not only do we have the NRG series for ourselves this week, or sorry, in a couple weeks at the end of the month, but we also have store championships starting to come up. So, if you're going to a store championship, a big thing you need to be looking out for, is just one, what could be your local meta, so you can hone in on that pretty easily, or you can also take a look at what's big picture, because who knows how people are going to travel for this. Generally, though, when it comes to store championships, people will stick to their own stomping grounds. Ha, magic joke. But they won't travel too far outside of that for a store championship. Not like what we see for like 2Ks or any larger events, RCQs, items like that. So do you think there should be a lot of like deck altering from like your FNM or your Saturday Modern decks when it comes to your store championships, Jerry?
No, you should actually metagame hard for your store if you're playing for something like that. You know, back when I was over at GameStorm, the past couple of years. That store was known to be just a wild Tron and Teferi house. There'd be like 6 or 7 Tron players, so I'm just gonna play a deck that beats up on Tron. So
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. It's always a good strategy, especially in that environment because it's going to be locals. If you're trying to be real tricky, say you live in an area like Chicago and you usually go to a store say your normal store is Pastimes and Niles. You decide that you want to do the store championship, but instead you want to actually succeed at it and be a wild card where no one's gunning for you. Well, then just they would go to like Game Storm, go a little bit further to the next furthest store, that type of thing.
Okay. So yeah, that's definitely something to take into account. Now, when it comes to like RCQs though, now you have to account for people traveling. Way back, geez, Jerry, this is gonna make us sound old. 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
6 years ago when IQs were all over the place on the East Coast, and that like we would travel 2 to 3 hours for these events, sometimes upwards of four to go to
Or
an IQ.
or 7 if traffic dictated.
Yeah, I was gonna say depending on traffic. We've even had guys stop halfway from like opens from Cincinnati at an IQ to play. But granted, that was kind of a the opportunity presented itself, so that's why they did it. But that one there, you might want to prepare more so on what the larger scale metagame is and not so much on what your store is, right? Because you're going to get a larger crowd, a larger diversity of people traveling to see what's going to be there at the store for you to be able to capitalize on it and try to top it.
Exactly. Like for example, my deck I play Living In, so I know my absolute worst times I'm gonna have are turn one Ragavans and turn one Sagas on the draw. I need answers to those as often as possible because it's more of a general metagame sense. And I have, with my current build of the list, I'm playing 2 main deck subtleties, so I've now accounted for additional copies of Ragavan beyond just playing Sky Turtle. So I'm more acquainted now with a general meta sense rather than my own game store of 7 Tron decks.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a significantly different group of people there and decks that you got to prepare for. And then obviously when it comes to your much larger scale tournaments, I would say GPs and opens, absolutely look at what the top meta is and figure out what your like 50-50 matchups are, 60-40 matchups, try to make them better. But I know one thing you always hone on, Jerry, is if you have a matchup that's like nearly unwinnable, don't waste sideboard slots on trying to take a 90-10 percentage to like an 80-20 or a 70-30.
Exactly. Just ignore it. Who cares?
Yep. Like you can't prepare yourself for going up against prison 3 rounds in a row. How about it?
I beat it every time. I just wish I had a basic planes in my sideboard when I was playing Burn.
Right? Yeah.
I was losing other crap that day, but 3 prison decks.
Okay. So there are some newer cards though that are coming about that are really helping fight against like particularly I would say some graveyard decks that I think is kind of undervalued right now. Jerry, I know you're not a big fan probably of this card, but it does make a bit of an impact, and that is unlicensed Hearse.
It certainly does. Unlicensed Hearse, a 2 mana artifact vehicle from Streets of New Capenna. Its power and toughness is star star. Has an ability to tap, exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. Unlicensed Hearse's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards exiled with it. Crew 2. So, we have here, for the first time ever in Magic history, a Grave Hate card that also turns around and wins the game. Wait a minute, I'm being sarcastic. Deathrite Shaman did the similar thing. So, this card is absolutely fantastic. It's generalized Grave Hate in the sense that it's not particular for graveyard decks. Like, this is going to keep a Murktide off the battlefield forever. It's going to keep a Dragon's Rage Chandler as a 1/1. It's going to interact at the right axis against Yawgmoth combo and its Undying creatures. And it's going to whittle away at Living End's ability to play their cycling creatures over and over to make a big, decent Living End.
Yeah.
That on top of that, its crew 2 cost never changes. So, like, say you draw that late Ragavan and this unlicensed source has 8 cards underneath it, its power and toughness is equal to the number of cards exiled with it. So I'm gonna just play this Ragavan and give it haste effectively and make it an 8/8. Like, as graveyard hate pieces goes, this is like the best design I've seen in many years because
Yeah.
it's cool. It's not just an absolute outright hoser. It can be played around. It can be beat with some more obnoxious graveyard hands. Like some certain dredge hands can just race this card, but most of the time they can't because it's targeted. It's not like Relic of Progenitus where it's the player's choice. And it being colorless means it's accessible to everyone not playing Cascade, basically.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's an absolute fantastic card. Snapcast team member Drew Debevois, he's been all over this. I believe he's playing it in his shadow list, is what he was saying. And just like you pointed out, like being able to keep Darcy down, or being able to like slow down that casting of Murktide. Also, one thing I really like about it is you're exiling two target cards from a single graveyard. So you're not targeting an opponent's graveyard, you're targeting cards in a single graveyard at that point.
So it gets around Leyline of Sanctity in that aspect.
Exactly.
Some dredge players have got real savvy. I'm looking at you, Thomas, uh, also known as Sodek. He started playing Silent Gravestone to fight this card.
Ooh.
The
Yes.
Silent Gravestone is weird grave hate and not and graveyard protection at the same time.
Boom, Silent Gravestone. Look at
All
that.
right, there's our lad. So it's a 1 mana artifact, so you can find this within Urza Saga. Cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. 4 tap, exile Silent Gravestone, and all cards from all graveyards draw a card. The last ability is irrelevant. It protects your graveyard from this, from copies of Unlicensed Hearse. Some people have been getting real tricky playing that. I saw a couple Murktide decks playing 2 copies because now you're going to make your Darcy's huge still, and you're going to turn off Unlicensed Hearse for the whole game at the cost of 1 artifact. So this is a way to combat against it.
Yep.
The other thing to combat against it is a 2 mana artifact. It's very slow. It's still very slow. So countering it with a Force of Negation, Living End. Now we're in my ballpark. Now is our best answer to it.
Yeah, and I've actually picked up two foil Silent Gravestones also for Crabvine, because I have been foiling out Crabvine, and one of my biggest fears, of course, is cards like Surgical Extraction or anything that's going to target a card specifically in my graveyard to get rid of it. Having Silent Gravestone absolutely helps you against that. Now, Silent Gravestone, though, will not help against sweeping effects for those who aren't used to this. So cards like Endurance, right?
Yes. Or
Endurance,
Tormod's Crypt.
yeah, or Tormod's Crypt, Relic of Progenitus. Those cards can still absolutely hose your graveyard. This is specific individual targeting effects, like we were talking with Unlicensed Hearse, or Surgical Extraction, or even Extirpate for the Supreme Mill players.
Yeah, cards like that see a lot of play still to this day. So Silent Gravestone is a reasonable answer. It's becoming more and more reasonable in modern. It was super like the most played anti graveyard hate card in Legacy for the longest time because obviously Surgical is free and Fairy Macabre is free, but this is a good way to answer the hearses as well.
Yep. So what else do we have going on in modern? Some new cards that are kind of like starting to shine that maybe some people aren't thinking about, or some good cards you can throw on your sideboard with how the meta has kind of shifted a little bit.
I'm thinking the card Crime Punishment that seems to be coming back.
Oh yes, Crime Punishment. Boom! Look at that. The way that Richard Garfield intended. Let me just center that better. There we go. Look at
There
that.
we are. So I'm really more interested in the punishment half, where it's X black and green. Destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with converted mana cost X. Yawgmoth, I noticed had been playing at least 2 copies of this. I think Jund may have played a copy of this recently as well, because of its ability to go black, just black and green, to destroy 2 Ornithopters and there's a Saga, all for 2 mana.
That is correct. Yeah, it has definitely been on the, well, not really on the uptick because it's again just always been there, but the price for it has skyrocketed. I mean, the card has only had one printing all the way back in Dissension. Yeah, the
Yeah,
tabletop price we saw it spike. That was about 3 months ago, and then again after Streets of New Capenna released in June, we saw another big spike, another $10 jump or so.
but I think anyone in the Golgari colors is at least playing 1 copy of this because of the rise of Affinity as an alternative Saga deck that's also very budget friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it for that. Now, one thing that I've been wanting to see here recently is I have a new card for Crabvine that I want to talk about, Jerry, and that is Rotting Rats. And it's a unique one to say the least, right?
Yeah, nice draft chaff you have there, fam.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it comes out of Conflux. We also saw it in Plane Chase as well, right? It's just this random common that came about, but it has this wonderful effect of when it comes into play, each player discards a card. For me being a Crabvine player, this is outstanding because nothing is worse than drawing into like a prized amalgam or drawing into a Vengevine and not being able to cast it. So this gives me a little bit of a buyout on turn two. The sacrifice that the Crabvine decks have made though is they got rid of Glimpse the Unthinkable, which is a mill 10. So why would we make that sacrifice for this?
My thoughts are is that Glimpse the Unthinkable is basically when you get it hit with a counter spell to blowout. This getting countered isn't the end of the world. It also has the unearth ability, which allows you to buy back more creatures. Any amalgams in the grave, Rotting Rat sees it. It has a light Croxel light effect, to where making your opponent discard a card is not an unreasonable effect, especially when they're down on mulligans.
Yeah. And another thing too that's nice about it is a zombie rat. So that can allow me to replay my grave crawlers out of the graveyard. Again, possibly triggering prized amalgams, possibly triggering avenge vines for the second creature cast. There's a lot of benefits to it. And the more cards I can get out of my opponent's hand, the better it's going to be for me. Because one thing, main deck, we're not really proactive. We are a combo deck through and through. Not a lot of interaction. Actually, none at all, really. I'm not targeting any creatures. I have no counter spells. I have no way to distort my opponent's game plan whatsoever. It is, I need to win the race. And then my sideboard, that's where I come in and start to be interactive, depending on what my opponent's playing.
Yeah. No, Rotting Rats is a very nice addition. It's also cheaper than Glimpse the Unthinkable.
It
Like,
is significantly cheaper, yes, especially when you're talking about foiling out the deck.
yeah, like I can only wonder what the foils of this cost. Like what, 5 cents, 10 cents?
Yeah, something like that, if at all, right? It is very cheap. Actually, no, it is a $4 foil compared to Glimpse the Unthinkables, I think $30 or $40 foil.
You are saving a lot of money doing this.
Yeah, well, if only I knew that before I made that purchase.
I mean, there's probably a metagame where Glimpse is better. So
Yeah,
just keep that in mind. I wouldn't count Glimpse out yet. Mill 10 for 2 mana is still ridiculous, no matter who you're targeting.
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, $36 for the Ravnica foils, which is where I went because I'm trying to get original printing foils for my Crabvine deck.
Right, right. Yeah, once you foiled out one deck, you're good. And I was the dummy who foiled out one. It got banned and then foiled out another and can't stand playing it anymore right at this moment.
Nice. But no, I mean, it is fun. If you're going to foil a deck out, definitely do it because you like the deck. Don't do it because you think the deck is going to be perfect for like ever. I foiled two decks, and the reasons I foiled my two decks is I foiled Titan Shift because I won Florida States with it. So that was a huge moment for me. 2016 Florida States when I moved back to Georgia after I was done up here in Virginia. Went to Tampa Bay and knocked that out of the park. Did really well. Had a blast with it. Made some really good friends. Still contact a couple of them actually. But that's why I foiled out Titan Shift. Foiling Crabvine because Crabvine gave me some very wonderful back-to-back open top 32s, or open and classic, I should say. So I fell in love with it, and I absolutely love the playstyle. Right, use all zones, and here I get to use my graveyard to play.
I foiled out ad nauseum because I love the deck, and I still do. It's still unplayable in my eyes, in spite of the new technology since the SSG ban, and the numbers definitely back that up. I still love playing Burn. I just can't stand Omnath right now, and I'm tired of losing to it.
Gotcha. Thankfully, I didn't play Omnath in my league. Not looking forward to playing it just because, for me, that's one of those just annoying piles of cards that I'm going to have to go against. I'm going to have to try to figure out how to beat, and it's going to be a big pain. The life gain is going to be very punishing for me. The endurance is going to be very punishing. The furies are going to be like there's a lot of things about that deck that, for as prominent as it is, Crabvine might not be the best, but one of the benefits to it though is if I get a fast enough start and I end up with Wonder in the graveyard, then I'm going to be able to fly over top and knock them out, hopefully before they get their game plan rolling.
Right. No, Wonder being an addition to the deck is huge. Endurance is a problem, though. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But the decks that play Endurance, they're flagging that they have Endurance. You're an Elementals pile, your Amulet Titan, your Living End. We all know you're playing 4 copies of Endurance somewhere in that 75.
Yeah, pretty much if my opponent is on green, if it's not Yawgmoth, and even like possibly some Yawgmoth decks might run it in the sideboard. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, I think they're more resilient than some of the graveyard decks. But if they're running green, I'm going to assume that they have endurance. That's how it
Uh,
is.
Good safety valve. Good assumption too.
Let's go ahead change it up a little bit here. But before we move on to our next topic, just want to give a big shout out to Deep Dive Games down in Kingsland, Georgia. Their store that's been around now just over a year. They've been doing absolutely fantastic. Actually, it's been like a year and a half now that they've been open right at the end, like towards the end of the peak of the COVID pandemic. And it's run by a wonderful person, Matt Davis. Him and I served on board the USS Maryland together. It's a military-run store, super friendly down in the area, very welcoming to new players, and it's not just Magic; it's all of your other gaming needs. So definitely check out Deep Dive Games again down in Kingsland, Georgia. All right, Jerry. This weekend we have Double Masters 2022. I
It,
can't keep up with all the masters in that.
my
That
heart
are
can't take another Modern Masters. No more. No more.
yeah. I mean, really, also, I think we can just take a break from X Masters sets. I think like this one, there's value all over it. Like we got some incredible reprints. You got Imperial Seal. You got the original Eldrazi in here. The cards look fantastic, but I think some people in the community are just getting tired of the cash grab. What do you think?
Well, the community. Some people in the community are tired of it. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You know as well as I do, the whales who want the product are going to buy the product,
Yep.
and there is a market for this product.
And I
I
mean,
hate being that guy, but if you don't want it, don't buy it.
yeah, and I am going to buy it. So I will be a little hypocritical here on the whole, hey, stop putting it out. But yeah, I'm going to probably get a 4-pack collector booster box weird thing, which I think is uh, horribly like compared to the VIPs. I think they're worse. I'm not sure. I'll
I
have to
don't
see.
know,
Right.
but they certainly have a price tag, and there are cards that if you pull them, not only do you make your money back, you make a significant amount of money back.
Yeah. Yeah. There's quite a few of them that have a substantial amount of value in it.
Like if you pull that foil full art Imperial Seal, you can easily just rake in $1,000 off that thing.
Yep. The big thing is just be responsible whenever you're paying it. Oh, hi, Leah.
Hi, Leah.
That's okay. It's all right. Like for those that are hunting cards or trying to get that lottery ticket, remember that it is a lottery. Take a look at the number of rares and mythics in this set, and then think about the likelihood of you pulling that borderless full art Imperial Seal or uh the Ulamog not Ceaseless Hunger, Butcher of Truth. No, that's Kozilek
Ulamog
Butcher of Truth.
Infinite Gyre.
That's it, Ulamog Infinite Gaia, right? So just be smart about it. The packs are incredibly expensive. Um, it is absolutely 100% better to just buy the singles instead of trying to hunt them through booster packs.
Yes, if you're gonna get this 4 pack thing, do it because you love it.
Yep,
That's why I want it. I'm gonna do it because I love it. I don't expect to get anything out of it. If I do, great. If I don't, great. I did it because I loved it.
exactly.
That's a hell of an expensive draft right there. Just get 7 bros together and just buy like 4 pack, buy the 4 pack, and then we just draft that crap. And then everyone, and we'll even have more fun and just draft the 4th pack because you can.
Yeah, and let's see how the do you know how the collector booster pack is broken down? Like, well, what you can get in it?
I don't. I don't even think they've released that information yet. Talk a little bit about the draft format since I kind of peeked at it.
Yeah, go for it.
One of the best things about this draft format is that there is a very cool plus one counter scheme, and it's spread out across many different older mechanics of Magic. Like you have old school copies of cards like Thrive. You have cards with the Outlast ability. Outlast is you pay the mana for it, you tap it, and you put a plus one counter on said creature with Outlast. Hardened Scales is in the format. Evolve is a mechanic back in the format. That's when you play a creature that's bigger than it, it gets a plus one counter. And even there's a sub sacrifice theme with it where Bloodflow Connoisseur is a 1/1 that says sacrifice a creature, put a plus one counter on it. So, one of the things you could definitely draft if you're looking to actually draft and win with this set, plus one counters is a place to be all up and down the rarity. Uh, One of the most unique tribes is now more available because of a rare shift. A matter of fact, Rob, let's put you to the test again. Can you pull up Arachnus Spinner?
Right?
I want this because it got rare shifted. It's now an uncommon,
Okay.
and this is a very back when it was in limited back in the core set. It was a very strong card that ends the game. It also was able to block big flyers, which was very important. And now that it's in an uncommon, you can actually do Spider Tribal with the whole Arachnus Spinner, Arachnus Web Wombo combo. Some of the other cards involved in the deck are Deadly Recluse, being the go-to common spider, 1/2 for 2 with reach and death touch, and spider spawning. This when you have a bunch of creatures in the yard, you pay 5 and make a bunch of 1/2 spiders with reach.
All right.
But here is Arachnus Spinner. 5 and a green for a spider with 5/7 in reach. Those are actually it's a very specific stat line because it's able to block specifically your drakes. A lot of the early game casted drakes, it blocks them and is still immune to a lightning bolt. So that's by design. That's why it was a rare back in its day. But obviously the stat line doesn't match the rarity anymore, especially considering the power of the set. So making an uncommon was awesome. But to its effect, it's a 5/7 with breach, and it says tap an untapped spider you control, search your graveyard and/or library for a card named Arachnus Web and put it onto the battlefield attached to target creature. If you search your library this way, shuffle.
So as I pull up Arachnus Web here, just know, so the Double Masters collector packs, what you're looking at getting is 4 cards at rarity of rare or higher, 2 to 6 uncommons, 5 to 9 commons. Every pack will contain 10 to 11 traditional foils and 1 rare or mythic rare foil etch card. A textured foil mythic rare is a 3% chance in the boosters.
Arachnus Web is 2 and a green for an enchantment aura. Enchant a creature. Enchanted creature cannot attack, block, or activate its activated abilities. At the beginning of the end step, if enchanted creature's power is 4 or greater, destroy Arachnus Web. So this is a pacify with 1 more mana, and it takes away activated abilities as well. This is always a fine common in draft, especially when you're in a white-green aggro deck. And with Spider Tribal being a real viable option since its Lord is an uncommon, this should be pretty easy for you to pick up. Like if you could pull like 2 copies of Arachnus Spinner, 3 copies of Deadly Recluse, and 3 Arachnus Web, you have a really strong spider deck at that point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is a really cool interaction. This is one thing I like about seeing some of these sets come out, is it's not just all power cards, right? When it comes to this master set, they try to make this a very draft friendly or sealed friendly set, because that's one of the biggest things whenever they come out with any set other than testing it like in standard or testing it in modern. Looking at you, Modern Horizons. Um,
Testing it.
yeah, like there's a lot of good themes in this and a lot of different ways that we can go about making the cards good. I would say like one of the drawbacks to the set, I'm not a big fan of the land cycle they chose for this set. I believe this set, again, we saw the bounce lands getting printed.
They went with the Rainbow Land cycle, the more popular ones for Commander.
Oh, okay.
That's where that was their rare cycle of lands.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Cavern of Soul, City of Brass, Forbidden Orchard, and Pillar of Perins.
Yep, those were the that was the rare cycle of lands. So that's fine. I think all those cards need to be printed anyways because their price tag is too high for how little they're actually played right now in competitive Magic.
Yeah,
I think
Pillar of Perins, that's the big one I want to talk about. So Pillar of Parents here, let me pull that up for y'all. It saw what, one printing prior to this, I believe.
Yes, Guild Pact. I'm pretty sure.
Yep. And we actually played it a little bit, Jerry. I had a deck for it before it got banned. Actually, really, the deck was banned before the cards were even released because it was in like I believe it was a Cascade Tybalt Trickery deck, is where I
Yeah,
ran this.
this is why we played it. It went into the Cascade Tybalt's Trickery deck, and pre-unclaimed territory. This was in humans,
Gotcha. Okay.
and that was really it. Card saw no play anywhere else because being a multicolor deck is great, but being a multicolor spell really sucks.
Yeah.
So this really got relegated to the commander decks.
Yep. So that was Pillar of Parents, Jerry. What was the one you wanted to talk about?
I want to talk about actually one of the mythics being printed. It's a bit of a telltale sign. At least this is how Wizards has been doing it in the past 5 years now.
Okay.
Dockside Extortionist.
All right. Yeah, let's get Dockside Extortionist up here.
So Dockside Extortionist is a shout out to the commander players because this card was always really expensive because everyone playing red in commander should always play a Dockside Extortionist. It's a 1 and a red for a goblin pirate with a 1 power, 2 toughness. When it enters the battlefield, create X treasures, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. So in a lot of commander games, Dockside Extortionist will make 3 or 4 treasures just by playing it. So it actually just net gains you a bunch of mana to allow you to do more obnoxious plays.
Yes.
There was a whole lot of talk that Dockside Extortionist should have been banned in Commander alongside Hull Breacher. The difference is that Hull Breacher stops play. Dockside Extortionist encourages play. So there's a little bit of a difference between them. And it being printed in this set as a mythic is a sign from Wizards that they're not going to ban this out of Commander anytime soon,
Yeah.
especially since Commander is a casual format. The last time they did something like that was when Splinter Twin was printed, which,
Yeah.
funny enough, that is my biggest tweet I have ever had. 750 views. I made a tweet mentioning Splinter Twin being banned as soon as it was printed, a reprint in a master set 6 months later.
Yeah, because I,
So,
I was going to bring that up. That just because it's in a master set does not mean they won't ban it. Splinter Twin. It
yeah,
still hurts those wonderful Izzet players.
that one hurts. But Dockside Extortionist is is a commander staple, and it sees absolutely no play in Legacy, which I think is a mistake. I think it is a fantastic sideboard option against 8 cast. Just
Yeah.
my opinion. I'm considering playing this alongside Hercule's Recall in uh
Ooh.
in Storm in Legacy, just to see if I could do some weird shenanigans where I'm like, all right, Dockside Extortionist, make 5 treasures, Hercule's Recall your dumb board, Dark Ritual, ad nauseum, draw my deck, kill you.
Yeah. One big thing too, for those who aren't used to these other random master sets, because we just had Modern Horizons came out, and that introduced new cards to the modern set. When it comes to some of these other master sets, like Double Masters or Iconic Masters, Eternal Masters, these do not add new cards to the formats, with the exception of Legacy and Commander and Vintage.
Which I think is a mistake.
Yes.
Outside of Imperial Seal, Mana Drain, and I think that was it. There might have been one more card in here that I just said that just can't be in Modern. But Imperial Seal and Mana Drain are the two glaring obvious ones. This whole set could have been brought into Modern, and it would have been fantastic. It would have been a fantastic addition.
I don't know. I got one here. I got one I'll pop up, Jared, that I don't think Modern has any business seeing. Here, I'm gonna leave it a surprise for you. And that's this beauty right here.
Nah, that should be in Modern. No, it don't mean nothing. And I slap my slap my speaker in the process. Nah, that is
I would
fine in
move
Modern.
I would move so fast to a like a Gruul, or even like I know people still call Gruul Ponza in Modern, but absolutely I would just book it
It's
to
one
an
green mana, do nothing. You're not
it
doing anything on your first turn.
well, not
You're
on your
you're
first
paying
turn, no, but on
you're
your
time
follow-up turns
walking
though.
yourself to hopefully aggro your opponent out. I'm not into it. I don't buy
Oh,
it.
I don't
I mean,
know.
it's cool. I think it would be fine in Modern.
Uh, I I think aside from a turn one play, I think later on this could be an outstanding one, because really, if you think about it, like you could probably do some really dumb stuff. I don't have the big enough brain; it's a little too smooth to figure that out. But everybody else on the Magic community can absolutely take a look at this card and probably say, "I know how to break it and decimate my opponent by turn three."
I mean, we're already doing that in modern. Who cares?
Yeah,
You know
okay.
what? You know what I really don't care about? Going violent outbursts and then getting a living ended, and all those hasty creatures are just gone all of a sudden.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, I guess you make Burning Tree Emissary a better card. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I was
Like,
gonna say, like your elves deck, your elves deck getting haste. No, thank you. I don't want to deal with that.
and elves ain't even good right now because they're just getting like their tribal is not a thing in this format. That's not elementals.
Well, that's because they have to hang out and deal with their summoning sickness, right?
They gotta die to fury.
Yeah, exactly.
They gotta get 4 for 1.
Oh man. But no, yeah. So like, as much as it would be excellent to play with some of these cards, I don't know. Allosaurus Shepherd. Do you think Allosaurus Shepherd could survive in modern?
Yes, it's fine in modern. We need like the cards we're talking about are like cards that decks need to compete. Like elves can't compete in modern right now. Creature decks just normal creature aggro. Like you know how cool like the zoo deck that we saw when Modern Horizons dropped. It's a dead deck now. The General Ferris Rocker deck isn't even playable because it gets blown out. Remember how humans used to be the combo hater of the format?
Yeah,
Well, there's
it's
this deck called Living End, and I play these Sky Turtles, and I play these Subtleties. I don't care if you play Meddling Mage. I have main deck good answers that kill you. You can't even Reflector Mage the Sky Turtle. That's how bad that is right now. Like, I think this would have been, with the exception of Imperial Seal and Mana Drain, and anything that's already on the ban list, like I think Top's in the set somewhere.
and this
Like,
card.
that should be legal. I don't care.
No,
I don't.
no, I don't want to deal with that again. I don't want to deal with, I mean, as fun as it
I
was,
do. I don't
Tyler, you're
care.
gonna hate me on this. Summer Bloom needs to stay banned.
I think but on the serious note, like managing an Imperial Seal just should be like everything else could be fine. Like I would love a food chain deck in the format. That would
Yeah.
be fantastic. Uh,
It would be very
but
interesting to see it, to try it. I would really love to see another large scale no ban modern event, where they incorporate cards from the masters, like the master sets. Anything that was printed since, like excluding Commander, printed since 8th edition. I think we should be able to try to play with. I think that'd be fun.
that would be a wild format.
Exactly. All right, we are coming up on our time here. Jerry, do you have anything else to add?
No, sir. I really enjoyed this talk. Man,
Absolutely.
I didn't think we'd get this hype about double masters, but here we are. Uh,
Yep.
I'm
So
excited to get my packs. I'll probably do a video of that
yeah, I mean,
on the 4 that I cracked.
we can do it here and get our camera set up, and we could go pack to pack and see what we get, and just have a blast with it. But
Pull foil Imperial Seals.
yeah, but I want to thank everyone for watching and as well listening. If you're listening to us on Spotify or any of the other like iTunes and podcast outlets, definitely check it out. We are going to be posting this up on YouTube on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/the SnapCast. And if you want to join us in our listening booth, feel free to reach out to us to join our Discord. And then you'll be able to listen in as we do this live, type questions into the Discord, and we'll answer your questions too at the end, do a little bit of a 5-minute Q&A where we give you our insight on everything. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you again for joining. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, snap.